The morning started like any other at Jake Miller's auto repair shop on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. The building was old, with peeling paint and a flickering sign that had lost 2 letters years ago. Jake, a 32-year-old mechanic with grease-stained hands and tired eyes, opened the garage door as the cold air rushed in. Business had been slow for months, and every day felt heavier than the last. He wiped his hands on a rag and glanced at the empty street, wondering if today would bring even a single customer who could actually pay. Around noon, the sound of a powerful engine broke the silence. A sleek black SUV pulled up, completely out of place in the worn-down neighborhood. Jake raised an eyebrow as the vehicle stopped near his garage. The driver quickly stepped out and opened the back door. That's when Jake noticed a woman sitting inside, carefully preparing to step down. She was about 30 years old, well-dressed but not flashy, and beside her was a wheelchair with a visibly bent wheel and cracked frame. The woman introduced herself as Sophia. Her voice was calm, but carried a quiet exhaustion. She explained that her wheelchair had been damaged earlier that day, and every specialized repair center she called told her it would take weeks to fix. Some even suggested replacing it entirely, quoting outrageous prices. Sophia said she couldn't wait that long. Without a working wheelchair, even simple tasks became painful and risky. Jake crouched down to inspect the damage, immediately realizing it wasn't an easy fix. The alignment was off, and the frame had stress fractures most mechanics wouldn't bother repairing. Jake hesitated for a moment. His shop focused on cars and motorcycles, not mobility equipment. He had fixed wheelchairs before for neighbors, but nothing this advanced. Still, something in Sophia's eyes made it impossible to turn her away. She wasn't demanding or entitled. She simply looked tired. Tired of explaining, tired of being passed around, tired of being treated like a problem instead of a person. Jake told her he could try, but it would take time and he couldn't promise perfection. Sophia nodded, relieved someone was at least willing to try. She mentioned money wasn't an issue and that she would pay whatever he asked. That statement surprised Jake. He'd heard similar words before, often from people who later complained about every dollar. But with Sophia, it didn't sound like a flex. It sounded like desperation. Jake asked her to leave the wheelchair for the day. As she was helped back into the SUV, he noticed she winced slightly, as if every movement came with hidden pain. Once the vehicle drove away, Jake rolled the wheelchair into the center of his garage. Up close, it was clear this was no ordinary chair. The materials were expensive, the design complex, yet somehow poorly adjusted for its user. Jake shook his head. He'd seen this before. High-end equipment, built to look impressive, but not tailored for real comfort. He grabbed his tools and began taking the wheelchair apart piece by piece, carefully laying each component on his workbench. As the hours passed, Jake lost track of time. He adjusted the wheel alignment, reinforced weak joints, and reshaped parts of the frame to better distribute weight. Every change was made with intention, imagining how Sophia's body moved, where pressure would build, where pain would start. He remembered his late mother, who had spent years using mobility aids after an accident. She used to say the worst pain wasn't physical, it was feeling invisible. That memory pushed him to keep going even when his hands cramped and his back ached. By evening, the garage lights were the only ones still on in the area. Jake realized he'd used parts he originally saved for paying. And car repairs. Replacing them would cost him money he couldn't spare. For a brief moment, doubt crept in. He wondered why he was sacrificing so much for someone he didn't even know. But then he thought about Sophia's quiet voice and the way she avoided eye contact, as if apologizing for needing help. That thought settled his mind. Jake finished the final adjustments close to midnight. He tested the wheelchair himself, pushing it across the garage floor, checking for balance, smooth movement, and stability. It performed better than he expected. He leaned against the workbench, exhausted but strangely fulfilled. He didn't know who Sophia really was, and he didn't care. To him, she wasn't rich or poor. She was just someone who needed help at the right moment. Before locking up, Jake looked at the repaired wheelchair one last time. He hoped it would make her life just a little easier. What he didn't know was that this simple act of effort and empathy was about to trigger a chain of events far bigger than his small garage. Somewhere in a luxury home miles away, a billionaire father was about to learn a lesson no amount of money had ever taught him. The next afternoon, the black SUV returned to Jake's garage, stopping in the same quiet spot as before. Jake wiped his hands and stepped outside as Sophia was helped. Down carefully, she looked nervous, her fingers gripping the armrests as if she was afraid to hope. Jake rolled the repaired wheelchair forward and explained softly that he had made several adjustments beyond the basic repair. He warned her to move slowly at first. Sophia nodded, her eyes fixed on the chair, uncertain but trusting. As Sophia transferred into the wheelchair, Jake noticed how tense her shoulders were. The moment she placed her weight onto the seat, she inhaled sharply. For a second, Jake feared something had gone wrong, but instead of pain, her expression shifted to confusion. She pushed the wheels forward slightly. The chair moved smoothly, without the usual resistance. Her brow furrowed as she tested a turn. Then another. The stiffness she had grown used to simply wasn't there anymore. Sophia rolled forward a few feet, then stopped. Her hands began to tremble. Tears filled her eyes as she looked down at her legs, then back up at Jake. He rushed toward her, panic in his voice, apologizing and asking what was wrong. Sophia shook her head, struggling to speak. Finally, she whispered that for the first time in years, her back didn't feel like it was on fire. The pressure points that usually caused constant pain were gone. The chair felt like it actually belonged to her. She explained how every so-called premium wheelchair she'd owned was designed for appearance and speed of production, not for the human body. Engineers never asked how long she sat in it, how her spine curved, or how pain built over hours. They followed measurements, not lives. Jake listened silently, realizing that his small, instinctive adjustments had done what million-dollar companies hadn't bothered to do: care. Unnoticed by Jake, a second vehicle had arrived and parked across the street. A tall man in an expensive coat stepped out and leaned against the hood, watching from a distance. This was Richard Carter, Sophia's father. A self-made billionaire who controlled boardrooms and markets. Richard was used to solving problems with money. He had bought Sophia the most advanced medical care available, yet nothing ever truly eased her suffering. He had come today out of concern, but also skepticism, expecting disappointment. When Richard saw tears rolling down his daughter's face, his heart clenched. For a terrifying moment, he thought she was in pain again. He took a step forward, ready to intervene. But then he noticed something unusual. Sophia was smiling through her tears. It was a smile he hadn't seen since before her accident. Confused and shaken, Richard stood frozen, watching her roll forward freely, without fear or hesitation. Sophia spotted her father and waved him over. Richard walked into the garage, his confident posture fading with each step. She told him, her voice breaking, that this was the first time she felt comfortable sitting for more than a few minutes. She said it felt like someone finally understood her body. Richard turned to Jake, expecting a long explanation, technical terms, or a high bill. Instead, Jake simply said he adjusted what didn't feel right and reinforced what looked weak. Richard looked around the small, cluttered garage. The worn tools, the oil-stained floor, the faded photographs on the wall. Nothing about this place suggested miracles. And yet, one had just happened. He asked Jake how much he owed him. Jake quoted a modest amount, barely covering the parts. Richard assumed he misheard and asked again. Jake repeated the same number, adding that he didn't charge for extra adjustments because they felt necessary. For the first time in years, Richard felt something unfamiliar: shame. He realized how many professionals he had paid, who never truly listened to his daughter. They delivered products, not relief. This young mechanic, with no obligation and no awareness of who she was, had given Sophia dignity. As Richard watched her move freely around the garage, laughing softly through tears, he understood that this moment was bigger than a repair. It was proof that empathy could succeed where power had failed. Jake sensed the emotional weight filling the room, but didn't fully understand it. To him, this was just the right way to do a job. He didn't know that Richard Carter was already rethinking everything, from how he spent his money to how he measured success. And as Sophia rolled back toward her father, her posture relaxed and her face lighter than it had been in years, the future quietly began to shift in that small Ohio garage. Richard Carter stayed silent for several moments after watching his daughter move around the garage. His mind raced, not with business calculations, but with regret. For years, he had believed that the best doctors, the most expensive technology, and the highest-priced solutions were the only paths to comfort. Yet here, in a small, aging garage, a man with oil-stained hands had done more for Sophia in a single night than entire teams had done in years. Richard finally spoke, his voice unusually soft, thanking Jake not as a billionaire but as a father. Richard pulled out his checkbook and wrote a number that could have changed Jake's life overnight. When he handed it over, Jake glanced at it briefly and shook his head. He politely returned the check, saying he couldn't accept it. He explained that he had already charged what the work was worth and didn't feel right taking more. Jake added that helping someone feel less pain wasn't something he could put a luxury price on. The refusal stunned Richard. People rarely said no to him, especially not to his money. Sophia watched the exchange with deep emotion. She told her father that Jake wasn't trying to impress anyone. He had simply listened. She said that listening was what she had needed all along. Richard felt his chest tighten. He realized how often he spoke for his daughter instead of letting her speak. In his efforts to protect her, he had sometimes taken away her voice. Watching Jake treat Sophia as an equal, not a problem to be solved, forced Richard to confront uncomfortable truths about himself. Over the next few days, Richard couldn't stop thinking about the mechanic and his tiny garage. He sent investigators, not to dig up dirt, but to learn who Jake really was. What they found humbled him further. Jake frequently repaired cars for single parents at reduced prices. He fixed vehicles for elderly neighbors for free when they couldn't pay. He never advertised these acts. To Jake, kindness wasn't a strategy, it was a habit formed from hardship and empathy. Richard returned to the garage alone one evening, without security or luxury cars. He asked Jake to sit with him and listen. Richard admitted that he had built companies focused on speed, scale, and profit, often forgetting the human beings at the center. He said Sophia's tears had shaken him more than any market crash ever had. He wanted to do something meaningful, not just donate money, but change systems that failed people like his daughter. Jake listened carefully, uncomfortable with praise. He said he wasn't interested in becoming rich or famous, he just wanted to fix things properly. That honesty inspired Richard to propose a partnership, not ownership, not control, but support. He offered to fund a nationwide program that would train mechanics and technicians to repair and customize mobility equipment with real human understanding. Jake would help design the standards, ensuring comfort and dignity came before profit. Months later, what started as one repaired wheelchair became a movement across the United States. Small garages were equipped to handle mobility repairs. Disabled adults who had felt ignored for years finally found places where they were heard. Sophia chose to share her story, publicly, not as a billionaire's daughter, but as someone who had lived in pain. Her voice reached millions, changing how people viewed accessibility and care. Jake's life changed, but not in the way people expected. He still worked with his hands, still wore the same worn jacket, but now his work touched lives far beyond his. Town. Richard, on the other hand, changed the most. He learned that wealth without compassion was empty. Watching Sophia move freely, laugh openly, and live without constant pain became his greatest return on investment. In the end, the wheelchair repair was never about mechanics. It was about seeing a person fully. A mechanic fixed more than metal and wheels. A daughter regained comfort, and a billionaire father learned that the most powerful thing in the world isn't money, it's genuine care.